Good afternoon, everyone. We're live here on Make We Talk, a special edition of Make We Talk this afternoon. We have with us our special guest, members of the Jamaican Diaspora. We're going to speak about Jamaica's Vision 2030 and the infrastructure and crime and violence in our country. We have attorney at law and former FBI agent Wilfred Rattigan, Mr. Herbert Nelson Jr., chairman of the Crime Security Regional Committee of the Caribbean. We're supposed to have Mr. Owen Brown on with us. We're just waiting on them to come on. We also have Mr. Minto. He is a Jamaican who lives in the diaspora. We're going to speak to him also. He, as a young man, what is his views on the crime and violence and the infrastructure of our country? For the past over 60 years, Jamaica has had over 45,000 Jamaicans has been murdered. And, you know, for over how many years the two political parties has been at the helm of everything in our country. But yet, they can't come up with a proper crime plan for this country. So let me say this afternoon, that this evening we're going to speak about our problems and see if we can get some solutions. So this evening I have with me Wilfred Rattigan, Herbert Nelson Jr., Mr. Minto, a friend of mine that I found on Twitter. We had our discussion on Space many times. On Space, we call him Chipper. Mr. Minto, unmute your mic and camera for me, please, sir.
Pleasant good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. Welcome to Make We Talk, a special edition this Sunday evening. Tell me something. You're a Jamaican living overseas, and you hear what is going on in your country. You have families back home. How do you feel about all of this?
I feel worried because I have an older brother who lives in the island, and he has younger kids, also nieces and nephews of mine that still living in the island. And I'm very worried for what will be left for them to hold on to in Jamaica years to come. The crime is very rampant, and nowadays they are very brutal, where they're not sparing even the life of children, much less a man or a woman. So it gives me, those times bring me utter disgrace to look at my country and feel it's so ashamed that I don't even want to think to move back when I retire.
So you're speaking with a lot of younger Jamaicans at your age overseas. You speak to a lot of them. What is your views? What are their views on what is going on in Jamaica?
They are scared to even take vacation back home. I've invited people that are Jamaicans, so let's take a trip back home, and they're scared because they are worried of what could become the outcome of them. They taking a trip back home for a short time. They're scared and worried that they might be robbed or murdered.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Mr. Minto. Mr. Rattigan, can you unmute your mic for me, please, sir? You're going to unmute your mic, Mr. Rattigan. You're going to speak to us this evening pretty soon as a former FBI agent and attorney at law. But you're going to speak to us now as a Jamaican, a son of the soil, who lives overseas. You have speak to a lot of Jamaicans. What is their views and what is going on in our country?
Views. Well, first of all, good evening to you, Mr. Tavares, and good evening to all of your listeners. To answer your question, I echo the same views as Mr. Minto. Jamaica, at this point in time, is a very, very dangerous place. Having said that, I wouldn't go as far as to say that I wouldn't go back now for a vacation. In fact, I was just there several weeks ago. And you still can enjoy yourself. The problem is that you have to be very careful. It's not like, the old days where you could just go back and just have fun and go wherever you want to go. now you have to be careful. It's almost as if you have to have, to go around the island, you have to have a bodyguard. So I echo what Mr. Minto says, in the sense that it is bad, and it's not even bad. It's gone from bad to worse. Just reading the news today, you saw where they found a dismembered body in a car up by Mona, and then I've seen several reports where police stations are now closing their doors. They're saying that they're still open for business, but they're closing their doors because several police stations have been attacked by marauding gangs, and well-armed gangs, I should say. And so they're very afraid. It's a tough time for Jamaica because we don't have good leadership. And I'm talking about at the very top, at the Ministry of National Security. We don't have, in fact, I'll say we don't have any leadership, because the recent poll demonstrates that, where 93% of the people polled said that they had little or no confidence in the leadership at the ministry and at the JCF. So that poll speaks volumes, and I'm surprised that the leadership is still in place, even though, and we haven't heard anything from the Prime Minister. So it doesn't bode well for Jamaica. It doesn't bode well for Jamaica at all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rattigan. Mr. Nelson, Herbert Nelson Jr., welcome to Make We Talk once more, sir. You as a Jamaican who lives overseas, Mr. Minto was the one who, let I put this out there, Mr. Minto was the one who, said to me, Jeffrey, we need to have a little discussion on what is going on in our country from members of the diaspora. And you, Mr. Nelson, you serve on various boards in the Caribbean, in Jamaica, and in the United States, and maybe all around the world. What are you gathering from Jamaicans who lives overseas, who are, who may talk to you now and again? What sense are you getting from them pertaining to what is going on in our country?
Well, Jeffrey, good evening to you and your listeners, and to my fellow panelists, and thanks for the question. Now, I, for one, love to organize folks and talk to them about Jamaica and what needs to happen with regards to our security. Of course, we're talking about Jamaica 2030, where Jamaicans are empowered to achieve their fullest potential. The society is secure, cohesive, and just. Jamaica's economy is prosperous, and Jamaica has a healthy natural environment. Now, there's a term we use in the military where you shoot yourself in the foot. It's not literal, but it's happened a lot by people who say things, espouse things, and they get the opposite effect by virtue of their actions. I try to tell people now, after encouraging them to go ahead and return home, the island can use your skill sets. And they're saying to me, look at how many returning residents have perished. Or they'll say to me, look at the amount of dead every day, every week, missing people that totally unaccounted for. And I cannot begin to answer their objections or to justify the fact that we seem to be in a crisis on the island. And when you look at the current murder stats, and I think the other areas that have gone up is robberies. When you look at those things, these are things that these people fear the most, that they're about to be robbed and they end up getting killed because they either resist or they don't move fast enough. So the government will have to come out with one heck of a PR campaign to convince some of these people otherwise. But I just don't see that happening. I don't see any of these goals being realized to the fullest because the effort that's needed is just not there. You have a national security minister who is traumatized by the violence. And today you have the justice minister said he could have been making millions of dollars, and he's in office as justice minister, and he's not doing very well. Now, that doesn't bode confidence for the diaspora or people wishing to visit Jamaica. So pretty much, I would love for the government to tell me what is the plan for 2030 and how we're going to turn the ship around that appears to be having run aground.
Thank you very much, Mr. Herbert Nelson Jr. I think we have Mr. Richards online now. Is that Mr. Richards online? I don't know. I see another person online with us. I don't know who that person is. Can you unmute your mic for me, please? Well, so many persons has my my Zoom link. You know, we live in a society where we celebrate 60 years of independence. And we say to ourselves, are we truly independent? Mr. Minto, unmute your mic for me, sir. I have heard you so many times speak bluntly and candidly about what is going on in Jamaica. As a Jamaican who you travel to and fro from your country many times, the sense that you're getting pertaining to what is going on from your family, I mean, would you invest back in your country?
I would love to invest into my country in the agricultural sector to create more sustainable jobs and food for our nation. However, I'm scared when I look at the rate of prey or larceny. I was just reading an article today about a man in Clarendon who went to go and reap his goats so he could sell them to get back to school money for his kids, and he found his 15 heads of goat missing. So that does not drive no interest into my heart to jump back into the field at this moment as a young man who is trying to provide the best life and sustain the income for his kids. It's very risky. So it drives fear into my heart to not be able to trust the upper heads to protect us as small business owner in the country of Jamaica.
You know, it is very heartbroken to hear when your own Jamaicans are saying this, that they don't want to come back home to invest. Yet you can hear every day, you can hear 2030 vision to work, live and raise family. And I keep on asking the question, are these people living in the same Jamaica that we're living in and that we're hearing about?
I try my best to figure it out too.
You are on Twitter, on many conversations we have on Twitter.
Yes, sir.
What do you gather from what majority of the young ladies, because we have a space on Twitter where a lot of young ladies comes on, and you know, we speak about a lot of things, but mainly about our country. What you as a young man, what do you gather from what they're saying?
I gather fear. A lot of people are fearful of what to expect on an investment route in Jamaica because you don't know when and where you might encounter danger. You might be trying to do business legitimately, but the investment routes are so hard for Jamaicans to invest back in the country on a scale that it should be easy for us as born Jamaicans because they give more leniency to immigrants of other countries than they do. So it makes it twice as hard for us to set up business back home. And a lot of younger persons in my age group that range from the age group of 21 to 30, we are scared to invest because we are just so unsure of what level of protection we have, whether for our money from the banks being defrauded or from the scale of criminals killing and robbing us.
I am going to play something here And I'm going to ask Mr. Rattigan, because a lot of people are saying that Jamaica don't produce guns. We don't produce guns, and quite surely we don't produce guns. And we're trying to figure out where the guns are coming from. Now, there is something that was brought to my attention, and I pray and hope that you all can see it. Because when I saw it, I was saying to myself, is this really happening? And I'm going to ask Mr. Rattigan, as a former FBI agent, I want you to listen to this, my panelists.
Crackdown on guns.
It follows a recent increase in firearm and ammunition smuggling to Haiti and other areas in the Caribbean. Local 10 News is Cody Weddle is live in Doral with the details. Cody?
Are you hearing it?
Yeah, guys, take a look at this firepower we have on these tables here. These are sniper rifles. We have some other semi-automatic rifles. Over here on this table, we even have an AK-47. And these are the guns that Homeland Security Investigations Office here in Miami say are increasingly flowing into the Caribbean, specifically into Haiti. We just heard from federal officials, from the HSI, also from the Customs and Border Protection, and from the Coast Guard. And they're announcing new resources and a new focus on stopping the trafficking of these weapons out of the United States and to Caribbean nations. So how do these weapons get down to Haiti? Well, officials say they're often concealed in other shipments, so they may be buried in a large container with other items. And the authorities here today saying they will beef up inspections and investigations starting today.
So the message we are conveying today is that Homeland Security Investigations and its partners will investigate and seek to prosecute any individuals involved in illegal arms trafficking.
So this is lucrative. These guns can be bought here in the United States for hundreds, thousands of dollars, and then they can be sold overseas for thousands and sometimes even tens of thousands. Homeland Security here does have a number. If you have information about illegal gun trafficking, that number is 866-347-2423.
Mr. Rattigan, you know, question for you, sir. How is it that all those guns are coming in from South Florida to the Caribbean? And America has so much, you know, security apparatus. Is it that when the guns go to the various port of departure, that there is nothing there, in a sense, to check what is in those containers?
Well, my fellow panelist, Mr. Nelson, he can speak to this topic better than I, but let me just say that Homeland Security, they don't have the wherewithal to search every container that leaves America. It's humanly impossible for them to do that, unless they have information that a particular container contains contraband. For the most part, the containers will be allowed to leave. Now, it's the destination country's responsibility to ensure that contraband is not coming into their country. Keep in mind that Jamaica has, and this is government statistic, more than 110 illegal points of entry. More than 110 legal points of entry. And there are, the ships go back and forth between, ships and boats go back and forth between Haiti and Jamaica. So you can see where if you start tightening up the borders, the Jamaican borders, that they'll just ship. In fact, they're doing it already, and the borders are not even tightened up. So some of the shipments are coming in from Haiti, others are coming in from elsewhere. I remember attending a community, a town hall meeting, where the police commissioner claimed that you can tell by the condition of the guns where they're coming from. He said if they're all scuffed up, they're coming from Haiti because they were probably used at some point over there. If they're new, they're coming from the US. That's nonsense. You can't really tell that, because as you can tell from this report, the guns are new guns being shipped to Haiti. And we know that there is a guns for drugs and guns for meat trade between Jamaica and Haiti. So this does not, again, I use the word bode well, it doesn't bode well for us at all, because if we have porous borders and these guns are being shipped to Haiti, you can just bet your bottom dollar that some of those weapons are making their way over to Jamaica. And that's why you have so many guns in Jamaica, because as you said, Jamaica doesn't manufacture weapons. And we haven't even talked about ghost guns yet, which are guns that you can actually make. You know, that's a completely separate issue, but nonetheless, it's related to illegal weapons in Jamaica. So I'll yield to my panelist, Mr. Nelson.
Mr. Nelson, you are the chairman for the Caribbean Crime, chairman of the Crime Security Regional Committee of the Caribbean.
Institute of.
Can you elaborate more than what I asked a while ago, sir?
Yes. Let me just give you some perspective, Caribbean-wide.
Yes.
Haiti has been the victim of at least several governments being overthrown. And not so much during the time of Papa Doc or Baby Doc, which is like the 70s, 80s, but at a later period in the 90s. And Aristide was a flashpoint for that decision to overthrow him, because what he was doing is demanding the Haitians be paid at least $2 a day, mind you, not an hour, but a day. And people didn't want to do that. They just didn't want to pay that, because they figured one demand could lead to something else. So they had to overthrow President Aristide, who was democratically elected. Lots of weapons were shipped into northern Haiti. When I say lots of weapons, I'm talking about tens of thousands of weapons to arm Haitians that would go up against the Aristide's group, which was pretty strong in the south. And in doing so, once he was overthrown, nobody thought, well, now we have all these weapons and we have a lot of people who are to work. And how did they earn money? Well, the people who they armed simply turned around and engaged in guns for drugs, mainly marijuana, or guns for food, guns for meat, guns for whatever. But this trade went into high gear between Jamaica and Haiti. And as a result, Jamaica was inundated with weapons of all kinds, the mass destruction, as you were shown in the earlier picture. And this has continued to date. Even with the overthrow of the last president, who was shot dead, excess weapons were shipped into Haiti, and those weapons will find a home because those people now have an opportunity to sell more weapons or trade in a barter style trade of those weapons for food or for.
So in other words, Mr. Nelson, you're saying that the guns coming in from Haiti into Jamaica give food for guns.
Yes, or give ganja for guns. The fact of the matter is, we have never been able to stem the tide of those weapons coming in. But most importantly, I want to note, having been had access to the monitoring of that by boat, guns for food, guns for drug trade, the majority of guns coming into Jamaica is coming right through our legal wharves. And I'm talking about in Montego Bay as well as in Kingston. Unless you have some of these giant X-ray machines like they have here in the US to X-ray all the containers coming in, then you're going to miss something.
So tell me something, Mr. Nelson. Have you ever recommended to the Jamaican government or the Jamaican authority that they should invest in one of those X-ray things?
I knew the discussion was had in the past. And these are X-ray type machines that you can literally drive a car through it. All right. So if you're coming in with large containers, the mill van containers, and you open the mill van containers and unpack and put it on a conveyor belt through those X-ray machines, it should be able to pick up the image of weapons.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So Jamaica would have to, in fact, invest in that type of technology to detect the weapons coming in. And the only other way you can do this is, as we proposed, was to look at the history of where the weapons came out of to Haiti and try to stem the tide for those sources in Florida and Virginia and North Carolina, where those weapons came from and got into Haiti and then onto Jamaica.
Okay.
Mayor Bloomberg tried that in New York during his 8-year tenure. Spent millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars, but it didn't stop those guns coming into New York. So I guess, we have a long way to go if we're going to be true to our 2030 goals.
Yes. We're just, wherever you're watching from around the world in the Eastern Caribbean, this is Make We Talk with yours truly, Jeffrey Tavares. I have with me this afternoon Mr. Minto, a Jamaican, a friend of mine who begged me and asked me, say, hey, Jeffrey, we need to have another forum on this, We also have Mr. Herbert Nelson Jr. He is the chairman of the Crime Security Regional Committee of the Caribbean. We also have a very good friend of mine who is a non-nonsense person, an outspoken person, who has applied for the job of Minister of National Security and Justice, not the Minister of National Insecurity and Injustice, no, the Minister. And also he has applied for the Commission of Police. Well, I should say he applied for the Commission of Police, not the Minister of National Insecurity. Mr. Wilfred Rattigan, we're asking who is on our YouTube channel to like, share, and subscribe. Mr. Minto, unmute your mic from Mr. Minto. You hear what Mr. Nelson just said? The guns are coming in from Haiti to Jamaica. As a young man, a Jamaican who's growing up, who's coming up, you have your children and you have a family. Your children is up where you are, your family is back home in Jamaica. What would you say to the Jamaican government now? What suggestion would you give to them pertaining to the whole gun issue that is happening in our country? That's coming into our country. With the whole port of entry that is, it is left up to everybody can go in.
I believe that in all of this, in retrospect, we need to improve on our coast guard. We can't just have one set side to the coast guard. We need more coast guards on every coastal line there is in Jamaica. Clarendon needs its own form of coast guards, just like how Kingston and St. Catherine does as well. Same for Portland and all these other parishes. We need to put more infrastructure in place to create better resources for our people so we can live in more peace and freedom. Because this talk that Mr. Rattigan made and Mr. Nelson made is something that I've been hearing from when I was a child, that guns have always been coming in from Haiti. And I was born in the 1997. So I was born just a little few years ago. And I've always been hearing this talk from when I was a kid. That meat was something that we trade as commodity because the Haitians were getting the guns freely from the US. So we always have heard about this, and now it is at a higher level in the country. And with this new wave of everybody importing cars, and these cars are not checked properly from where they're coming from, their ports of entry, I believe that also has ramped up the importation of firearms into the country. And it's ridiculous. It is ridiculous because we have more than enough resources in Jamaica to reinvest into our country to heighten security for our people.
Wow. Yes, Mr. Rattigan, go ahead.
No, I have to agree with Mr. Minto. This has been a perennial problem, and it's just talk, talk, talk. Now, I remember two commissioners ago. Can't remember his name.
Forbes,
The doctor, the good doc, Williams.
Dr. Williams.
Dr. Williams, yes. He had a program there called Get the Guns, as if the police weren't responsible for doing that. And then now we have this new commission. I have one called, I think, Get the Illegal Guns Off the Street, and it's co-sponsored by the Prime Minister himself. Now, Mr. Minto raised a very good point, which is that since from the time of his birth until from the time he could understand what was going on with the situation until now, it's been the same talk. The Prime Minister just came out with something recently saying that he's giving the gunmen, was it a week, 2 weeks to turn in their guns? We haven't heard anything. I mean, they've run out of ideas. They're out of ideas because they can't protect the borders. So the guns are flowing in, and they're flowing in at the rate of, 200 per month. That's what the current Minister of National Security said. He said the illegal weapons are flowing into Jamaica at a rate of 200 per month. Now that's 2,400 guns per year. And what do you see happen? They find a little cache of weapons, 20, and they have a big media exposition. They have all kinds of stuff, and they're patting each other on the back for 20 guns, right? And 200 came in that month. The question that the media should have asked them is, hey, what happened to the other 180? When are you going to stop that 180? Plus the 200 a month before, or whatever the difference is between what you caught and what remains. So it doesn't look good. The future doesn't look good. They talk about Vision 2030. I'm wondering what does that mean? Does it mean that they'll have vision by 2030, or they'll have vision after 2030? Because they're blind right now, and it's a blind leading the blind. So, we're in darkness. We're in complete darkness. And when professionals like Mr. Nelson, for example, try to explain to them the nature of the problem, how they should go about addressing it, we're ignored. And that's frustrating because at the end of the day, we live in America, but we love Jamaica. We are who we are by virtue of being Jamaican. And that's why we want to help. We want to give back. And in many instances, people have said, we will do this for free. We're not asking for power or position. We will do this for free. But they've resisted time and time again. And they've said, you can come down and give a speech, and that's fine. Or you can send money, but we don't want you working with us. And then they turn around and they say, oh, but by the way, the guns are coming out of America, so you guys stop the guns. They're telling me, and they're telling Mr. Nelson, we should stop the guns from the illegal flow of weapons from the US to Jamaica. And they know that for the most part, the guns are coming in from Haiti and from other countries. They know this, but I don't know if they're unable, and it looks like they're unwilling to stop the flow of weapons, because they also have a gentleman in Southcom they could easily ask the military to reposition the satellites to see the marine traffic between Haiti and
Jamaica.
Right, and that has not been done. Another thing look, if you want to know how porous Jamaica's borders are, take a look at the plane that crashed in
Rocky Point in Clarendon.
Rocky Point, yeah. That plane. What about civil aviation, military aviation, the satellite guy, the guy at Southcom? Nobody. I don't say nobody saw it. Are you telling me that nobody saw this thing coming?
But the funniest thing, Mr. Rattigan, when you have a Minister of National Security telling the people of our country that they don't find anybody, everybody left. Everybody gone, like Sammy Mouth.
Yeah, so the question is, how do you know that they're gone? And where were they when they were on the island? Because they entered the island illegally. They should have been detained at the very least. And they've left. And I mean, this just shows that they don't know what they're doing, and it's to the detriment of the Jamaican.
It's not a matter of the know what they're doing, Mr. Rattigan. It's a matter of we must ask the question, do they really want to solve crime in Jamaica?
Well, as you and I know, Mr. Tavares, we bash the police department, the JCF, a lot. But recently, I've come to understand that we should take a step back and seriously consider whether they're the ones that we should be pointing the accusing finger of blame at. Because we now know that they don't have enough bulletproof vests. We know that for a fact. We know that they don't have enough weapons, service weapons. Policemen have to sign out weapons when they go on duty. I mean, sign out when they go on duty, sign it back in, turn it in, and then go home. Some of them live in inner city communities, defenseless. We know that they don't have enough weapons. You believe this? And yet still, wait, let me finish. They have they don't have enough vehicles, right? Or at least operational vehicles. We heard about a division that has 40 vehicles and 23 of them, they're sitting in the shop. Only 17 functional, right? So they don't have enough vehicles, don't have enough bulletproof vests, they don't have enough pepper spray, they don't have enough
uniforms.
Right. And so on and so forth. So then you have to ask yourself the question, how can they, the biggest thing that they don't have a crime plan.
And another thing again, you know, when you have the People's National Party, which is the opposition party, who go out there every day and all they do is criticize, they don't have a crime plan for the country either. And that is a shame. And when you have a party that is just going on and on in government, we are becoming a dictatorship, you know. If we don't have an opposition party who can say to the government, look here, X, Q, Y, Z, then something is fundamentally wrong with the government of our country.
I mean, look at how everything is being militarized, right? Everything as far as law enforcement in Jamaica is being militarized, and for what end? Ask yourself the question: the Jamaican government, and I think it spans both parties, right? That they have tried a military experiment on 3 occasions, and on all 3 occasions they've failed miserably. Ask yourself this question: why is it that we've never had a JCF member leading the JDF, but we've had 3 JDF members leading the JCF? Why?
Something is wrong somewhere. Mr. Mintos, I see you unmute your mic. You have something to say, sir?
Earlier, I wanted to also bring up the point of the emergency line that we have in Jamaica. That
Emergency, you mean the 911 line?
911 it is utter nonsense and how it is operating at this current point. Because you cannot pick up that number in Clarendon and call and get in touch with the Macon station. You'll be routed to Kingston, where they will then tell you that you have to hang up your phone and call the Macon branch of police force. And where are those numbers listed?
You know, I must tell you, it is the fact truth. I don't remember where I was. Oh, yes, I was trying to get in contact with the Negril police. And I called 911. No. There was something going on within Negril, and I was in Negril. So I called the 911 to report this incident. They say to me, because I gave them my name, they said to me, Mr. Tavares, hang up the phone and dial this number. I said, I beg your pardon? So what you're saying, Mr. Minto, is the truth. Yes. I do not know if it's Mr. Is that Mr. This gentleman here that I have here with us now.
Mr. Google Priestley, yeah, good boy. Join the conversation, brethren.
Yes. I don't know who is it. You invited Mr. Okay, go ahead, sir.
Good boy. You know want to talk, but him depend on the thing they know, and him depend in the spotlight now.
Go ahead, sir.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Boy, I catch me off again because when I saw that message came in, I just log on. I never expect it was a personal live conversation. But good afternoon, gentlemen, again.
Good afternoon.
My intention one day in the future, don't look like me or maybe far, is to be a Minister of National Security one day. I hear everything y'all saying, but one of our main problem is a political problem. It's a real political problem. And in terms of how I should put it now, I have to be careful of my choice of words now, or I can speak freely. Which one?
Go ahead, speak. Hello. It name make we talk. And let me tell you something. You see, if I not cuss now, what are there something there? You talk. It has come to a point where people are sick and fed up of these politicians who go around, all the government do, you know. All the GG do is go around and name. We have a minister of national insecurity and injustice who doesn't do a damn thing. And a prime minister who believes that he has the power sent from God. And he walk around his arrogancy. Enough is enough. There comes a time when we must stand up. And I'm saying to every single Jamaican who are listening to me and watching now, the time has come where we must stop this PNP and JLP bullcrap in this country and speak out. Speak out. As what John Lewis said, speak out when there's something wrong. Speak out when there's something that is not right. And all we do from 1945 until now is swapping black dog for monkey, PNP, JLP, JLP, PNP. 62 is the same damn thing. Speak, sir.
Boy, I admire your passion, Mr. Tavares. I sincerely admire your passion. But in terms of the 911 thing I heard y'all mention just now, I see it as a problem too, and I hear it's a major problem. But I don't know what recommendations y'all have in terms of fixing that. I don't know if it's a technology problem or it's a lackadaisical problem or it's a political problem or it's an infrastructure problem. I'm not so sure what that is.
But how on earth, Mr. Nelson, you're gonna come in here for me now, Mr. Nelson. Mr. Mentor, go ahead.
I think it goes on all three fronts. It is a political problem because the political parties are lackadaisic enough to let it keep slipping by year after year after year. So it is on all three. And the infrastructural development in Jamaica is poor. What our money should be spending on to develop resources that can actually help us as a people. The broad span, our reach to our police forces is down because there can be a central network hub as Kingston. However, there can be other areas that they can reach out to. Like they can set up other polling areas to reach over to those people. So when you make a call initial to the 911, you shouldn't be telling me to hang up. You should be radioing into the police station in that area to let them know you have just received a call and this is the information and you share that information along. That should be on the police then, not on us as the people. We pay taxes to the political parties to do what is right for us. And I don't see any representation for us as a people, to the point where I've been speaking to younger generation of kids and I keep hearing everybody saying, what is an electoral ID? Why do I need that? It doesn't make any sense. I get that because what am I voting for? Nobody sees any changes right now. We don't care.
So Mr. Minter, in the case of the 911, you say, in your views, that is a political problem, right?
Yes.
Have you ever tried to approach anybody in the ministry before, in the National Security Ministry?
Hold on there now. You hold on a minute for me now. Sorry for that butty night now. You hold on a minute. Call who?
That is it now. I'm just about to ask.
When you call the Ministry of National Insecurity and Injustice, all I can hear, gang, 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 the phone ring. When somebody answer hit them, put you on, hello, they put you to the President of the United States. Then they come back to Jamaica. They put you down to the Mayor of Mandeville. Then they come back again. They put you down to the Mayor of Savlamar. Then they go back up to the Mayor of St. Thomas. Listen to me. Mr. Nelson can tell us how much billions of dollars the United States government give to the Ministry of National Security. Where is those money going? Mr. Nelson, tell us how much money they get, sir.
Well, the last time I checked, they were getting close to 60 million US dollars a year. Which
and that
multiplied times 150, you're going to come up with quite a few billion.
About $2 billion a year.
Correct.
Yet,
so
our police, they don't have any vests. The chairman of the Jamaica Police Federation told us on a Make We Talk program. And by the way, Minister Harris Chang, the chairman for the Police Federation, not living in a dictatorship, you know. So when you summons him to come to the office, allow him to talk. Allow the man to speak. Enough is going on in our country. Where is the $2 billion they get from the American government, Harry Strong? Where is the money going? The police that don't have any firearm going home with. They don't have any police clothes to wear. They have no bulletproof vests. Whatever they come out and all they can hear when you're passing a your Range Rover and Prado is wah, wee, wah. Go ahead, sir. I can hear myself this evening. Yeah.
You should remember now, that Minister Chang has said he is impacted.
He's what?
Impacted. He's affected by all the violence in the country. In other words, he's getting sick from the violence. So I guess he's unable to perform because of that. And today we read that the Justice Minister, Mr. Chuck, is saying that his salary has been impacted. He's earning millions and he's here messing around with the Ministry of Justice.
Hold on, repeat, Mr. Nelson. What you say? His salary is what?
He could be making, Chuck, it costs me millions to be in politics. He could be making millions. In other words, he could be doing something better.
It costs him millions to be in politics. But yet he's in there from what? Bill Philip.
There you go.
And hasn't resigned yet.
Yeah. He above all people, has never answered the question of why Dulles accountant was executed.
Why who?
Dulles accountant, Mr. Clark, was.
Why was he executed?
Yes, right. Between him and the PNP and national security representative. I've never answered that question. The fact is, the man was summarily executed by sending in 2 privates and a corporal into the man's house, and they shot him over almost 2 dozen times. A man who had evidence or could explain to the Jamaican public the contracts that were being given to Dulles, the kickback scheme, the people were involved with those contracts. So he has a lot of explaining to do, as we would say.
And go ahead, Mr.
One quick thing. In addition to the $2 billion a year and a half ago, Minister Chang made a statement that the government is projecting to spend up to 1.2 billion with a B US dollars to fight crime under a dubious plan called Plan Secure Jamaica. And we'll talk more about that sometime this week, Mr. Tavares. And he said he has this money to spend over 7 years between 2016 and 2023. So in addition to the money that Mr. Nelson just mentioned, he has this money. So the question again is, where did the money go? How is it that we have so much money to spend, and yet the JCF, they don't have vehicles, they don't have vests, they don't have guns, they don't have pepper sprays, they don't have a crime plan, and what else? They don't have a lot of things. So how do you expect them to fight crime? So
and they're underpaid?
Right, yeah, $70,000, 70,000 for a corporal, right?
They lack health insurance. They live in communities that is very hostile to policing. You know, we don't protect our police at all, and we don't do anything that would benefit them in the long term. And if they get shot, then they're going back into the community. They just police.
Yeah, and I just found out that well, I just heard that the police commissioner is surrounded by that. I said,
hold on for me, Mr. Rattigan. Mr. Richards, mute your mic for me, please, sir.
Yeah. The only thing that The only kind of soup that the police commissioner should have around him is chicken soup and beef soup. You don't need all of them soups that around you because all of them useless. You know, all of the high command, they're useless. They only need 2 people up there. Fitz and the other gentleman, I can't remember his name right now. But it's just a waste, and for far too long, the Jamaican people have been complacent. They don't ask the questions, and even when they ask the questions, they don't do follow-up to find out where is the taxpayers' money going. It's not government money, it's taxpayers' money, right? Our donor funds. And there have been no answers provided so far as to how the money is spent. But yet we have people traveling all over the place, first class, staying in, you know, eating big food, staying in first class hotels at taxpayers' expense, and then the poor taxpayers, you know, look at what happened recently with the land over in, what is it, Innswood, where we're hearing, we don't know the true scope of it yet, but we're hearing that there was an agreement between the government and Mr. Chin for him to purchase, I think, 3,000 acres of the most arable land in Jamaica, right, for agriculture. I mean, this is it. This is a gold standard for agriculture, and that he purchased it at a low price to farm. And after a few years now, they've I guess he got a variance, and now they're repurposing the land to build homes. While we still have a food security problem in Jamaica. Well, actually, we have a food security problem globally. And here it is that he came in with the idea that, okay, we're going to make this thing work for Jamaica, right? In line with Vision 2030, it would make sense. But now we're hearing something else. So it's just, I mean, we could go on for days about the types of rip-offs going on and the failure to account for taxpayers' monies. And so the taxpayers of Jamaica, they have to, we have to unearth this material. We have to explain to them what's going on. But then at the end of the day, it's up to them. They've got to rise up. They've got to and I'm not calling for them to take up arms. I've said before that all they have to do is apply for the demonstration permit and do it lawfully, and do it peacefully, and do it often.
Often as can.
You know,
Yes. One minute, Mr. Nelson. We have Mr. Richardson.
Gary, that's my
Mr. Gary Richardson. Unmute your mic, Mr. Richardson. He's also a businessman from the Clarendon area.
Yes, he is. He's a well-known designer in the Clarendon area who is having hard time employing young people to come and do something as simple as tailoring.
Okay.
Make clothes. You know, the younger generation is so far gone, they prefer to do what is glorified instead of taking up the necessary tools to apply themselves to get a skill work, to impact the country in a positive way, because the government has now shifted the focus from actual labor to just focusing on glorifying people that are impacting our country in a negative way.
Yes. Mr. Richardson? Mr. Richards, rather, can you unmute your mic for me, please, sir?
Wondering if he's able to. I don't know if he's on the move.
Okay. Well, and until he unmute his mic and ready to talk, then Mr. Nelson, you were saying something, sir? Unmute your mic, Mr. Nelson. Unmute your mic, Mr. Nelson.
yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing it. Go ahead.
Looking back at 5 years ago, 2017, the country, according to the Swiss nonprofit group that measures the amount of weapons in a country, said that Jamaica had over 200,000 illegal arms in the country.
What, we planning to fight a civil war?
I don't know, but they usually get pretty good statistics because they were the ones who also said in sub-Saharan Africa there were over 6 million small arms in sub-Saharan Africa, and we had to stop shipping weapons to sub-Saharan Africa. So now that he's identified Jamaica with over 200,000 weapons in 2017, they're saying at least 600 to 700 weapons annually comes into Jamaica. And if you multiply 5 times 6, that's over 3,000 more weapons would have come in since then.
So Mr. Nelson, when was this report came out? And does this report come out like every year or so forth?
Yeah, there's a site that they have that you can I believe you can take a subscription to it.
Mm-hmm.
Tell you how many weapons that they have been getting from police sources and everywhere that comes into a country of the Caribbean or Latin America or Africa or wherever.
So Mr. Nelson, you're telling me that the government, whether the PNP or the JLP in power, aren't they aware of all of these things, sir?
They are. They have, and those analysts keep track of this information. There's analysts at the national security level. There's the military intelligence unit, and there's
the
JDF, and there's another NIB, National Intelligence Bureau of the JCF. There's MOCA, and there is the CTOC. All these units should be aware of these shipments and the impact on the population at large. You've seen in Trinidad, their police commissioner get kicked to the curb and kicked out because he was handing out too many gun licenses to his friends.
As you touch on that, Mr. Nelson, I, for the love of God, I don't understand this. Don Anderson give a report. I think it was either Don Anderson or the RJR Media Group gave a report of the both the Minister of National Security and the so-called Commissioner of Police pertaining to what's going on in Jamaica. And, if the people want them there, yes or no. And how much percent of Jamaicans say they don't want them there. And the Prime Minister who believes that him put himself there, not listening to the call of Jamaicans who are saying, get rid of these two men. As what Mr. Rattigan said. They are not half full, they are full idiots. How long are we going to sit down in our country and allow gunmen to take over our country and shoot us down like blackbird? Meanwhile, the politicians has security forces protecting them left, right, and center. And the same security forces are protecting left, right, and center. They're not giving them what they're supposed to get. They're not giving them the right amount of pay. And how dare Del Ratchuk to talk about now him want more money? Huh? Come out of politics then. Since the council is the same to politics. Come out of Del Ratchuk because a farmer country serve no purpose. The Minister of Injustice, Del Ratchuk, serve no purpose. Because there are some laws on the book in our country from the 18th centuries that has not been amended. And he has been Minister of Injustice for how many years? From Edward Siaga days, he has been Minister of Injustice. Bruce Golden days, he has been Minister of Injustice. And now, Prince Andrew. And I can make something clear to everybody who's watching me, I am not a member of any political party, I am a Jamaican, and Jamaica come first for me. The People's National Party has no crime plan for Jamaica. So all Jefferson Golden going around chatting pure bloody nonsense, ask him what is his crime plan for the country. We cannot continue like this. And if we have a police force that when you call 911, they're telling us to hang up and call this number, yet they're getting $2 billion. And this has been going on from Wappy Kill Philip in the 1990s when PJ Patterson was in power. It's the same bloody thing. It can't continue. Mr. Nelson, go ahead.
Yeah, I should add that back in 2010, when the forces invaded Tivoli, it was actually, in our estimation, a weapons search. Because up to that point, the tractor trailers leaving the wharf, whether Kingston or Montego Bay or wherever, those tractor trailers were known to be carrying weapons. And that, in fact, Dulles had authorized the shipment of those weapons. And there were...
Then who authorized Dulles to authorize?
There you go. The senior police officers were in charge of port security, and they let those vehicles enter those communities. So 2010 provided an opportunity for them to go back and recover those weapons. And we still see in 2017, 7 years later, there are over 200,000 undocumented, unauthorized weapons in the hands of people in Jamaica. And that almost 600 to 700 weapons annually are coming into the country. With this kind of statistic, it's no wonder that our murder per 100,000 is quite high. It's the highest in the world.
Okay, Mr. Richards, are you ready to speak to us now, Mr. Richards? Mr. Richards, good afternoon, sir. Welcome to Make We Talk. You're in an area there's too much noise, though. Mr. Richards?
Is he hearing us?
He's unmuted. Mr. Richards, are you ready to speak to us now, sir?
No, I don't think he's hearing us.
You know, Mr. Rattigan, I want to come back to you pretty soon, Mr. Minto. Mr. Rattigan, unmute your mic for me, sir, because I'm trying to figure out something here. As a member of the law enforcement in America, a country with nearly 2-point-something or 3 million people have so much illegal guns in the country, sir. What is your suggestion to what is going on, sir?
Well, the first thing is that you have to have a plan, right? And if you don't have a plan, you're doomed for failure. And that's exactly what we're seeing before our very eyes. Don't forget that this is government that said that they would have you sleep with your doors and your windows open. And the only way you can do that now is if you're not inside that place. Because if you're inside that place, they're gonna come in and do whatever they need to do, to you. So the first thing is that you have to have a plan. You have to have resources. You have to have bright, diligent, courageous people. And all I'm telling you, all the things I'm telling you right now, Jamaica doesn't have. Or if it does, these folks, they're not courageous. They might be bright, they might be this, they might be that, but they're not courageous because people are not speaking out. This government has been in place now for 6 years, and we're yet to see a crime plan. And as you know, the chairman of the Police Federation said last week that he hasn't seen a crime plan. Now, this is a man who's in charge of the rank and file members of the JSF, and he's saying, I haven't seen a crime plan. So the question, if you don't have a crime plan, how are you going to fight this scourge of crime that's taken, well, not taking, it has taken over Jamaica? How are you going to fight that? How? So you need a plan, you need resources, you need good people. You also need the cooperation of foreign entities to assist. And you need a coordinator. And if you can get these 5 things in place, then you stand a chance. But right now, they don't have any of those 5 things I'm talking about. They don't have any of them. So again, going back to Mr. Minto's first point, yeah, fear is abounding in Jamaica, and it will continue. because you know what they say, where the people lack vision, they'll perish. And that's exactly what's going on. We don't have people with vision. We have 2 people here in charge of our national security apparatus, 2 of several, because you know, if you include the military as well, but at least 2 that we know of, where 9 adults and a baby out of 10 people decide say them no want them, right? So why you laugh? It's 3%, you know. Even the little baby, the tree, you know, 90% are 9 adults, and the trees are little baby, and they say, no, we have no faith and no confidence, and yet they still have their jobs. Yet they're still functioning in those capacities, and they're functioning as failures. And the government has not seen it fit to remove them. And so, you know, and people haven't, and the thing about it is that if you notice, people haven't risen up to say, no, enough is enough. These people must go. We demand a change, and we demand a change immediately, because it's only getting worse. And it's a dubious celebration, but we had a celebration of more than 1,000 deaths by homicide, actually, just a few days ago.
From January to August?
Yes. And it's projected that we're going to hit somewhere between 1,450 to 1,500 people. Right?
Before the end of the year?
Before the end of the year. And we still have these people in charge. You know, I've been calling out for a long time now that we need to get sensible people. We need to get dedicated people. We need to get knowledgeable people inside there. And then, you know, these people, you have some technocrats inside there. I've read a document, this document, it's called the National Security Policy for Jamaica, this document. It's 122 pages long. And when you read this document, if they do everything that they're supposed to do in this document, Jamaica would be one of the safest places in the world.
So who wrote that document, Mr. Rattigan?
The government of Jamaica, they did a study and they come out with this document.
Who came up with it? You went down a while ago.
It says right here, Government of Jamaica. And it says National Security Policy for Jamaica towards a secure and prosperous nation. This is a Jamaican government document, right? Or it says, it has a seal on it, Government of Jamaica. And if you read this document, it's very well written, very well written. I mean, them copy a whole bunch of things from the US. I mean, I know, because the language that I see there, it's language that the FBI was using back in 2013, 2012, 2013. So I recognize the language. But if they follow that document, that's a blueprint for success. But if you read it, guess what you're going to find? You're going to find that none of these things have been done. None of these things have been done.
So in other words, what they do, they just go around and spend a whole barrage of money to write up all of these encyclopedias.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing is being done.
Or as I used to say in a basic school, then scopy. Them go and scopy people things. That's what them do. And so then they, and somebody said to me, look, you know what? I guarantee you that this was done to get donor funding. They put this in place to get donor funding from IDB or some other organization to say, this is what we plan to do, and we are begging us some money to help we implement it. And then once them get the money, them just throw it in the garbage. So but I have it. And I go and hold them feet to the fire.
A question to you, basically, it's basically like doing a business plan to get funded.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And then once they get the funding, them throw the business plan and do whatever they want to do.
Mr. Minto, aka Chipper, because I know him as Chipper on our space. Chipper, you all of this that you're hearing from these gentlemen.
Yes.
A former FBI agent, attorney at law, a chairman for the crime committee of the region of the Caribbean. What do you see? How should I put this now? How do you feel to know that these are Jamaicans? They have approached the government, whether the PNP or the JLP, pertaining to a lot of things that they're speaking about, and they do nothing about it. As a Jamaican citizen who have your mother whosoever living in Jamaica, how do you feel? What would you say to the government of Jamaica now? What would you say to your family who's out there?
I am disappointed in us as a people as well, because we're not holding these people accountable. We have sat here many years blaming parties. Oh, it's this party, it's that party. I'm sick of that. As a young man growing up in Jamaica, I've always made up my mind that I will never vote until I see something to vote for. because I'm tired of hearing that it's the JLP who did it or it's the PMP who did it. And really and truly, it's we as a people who keep doing it to ourselves. We vote these people in, we put them in place to represent us, and we do not hold them accountable once they get into their positions. We believe as a people that it's not our place to hold them accountable. And I believe as a people of Jamaica, it's our place to question everything they do. Just like when I see articles come out and I hit you in the DM and I say, Mr. Jeffrey, what is this all about? What is this utter nonsense that they're talking about? $11.6 billion to improve a national stadium that we only use 2 times out of the year? What is that about? When we have just leaving the country, fleeing the country to go to other places to find jobs, even though the living there may not be as better. The pay is, the resources are, and the respect for them is much better. People come into the House of Parliament and say they're taking a pay cut. I think as a patriot to your country, that should not be your words that are uttered out of your mouth. There's no more patriotism in Jamaica when it comes down to politicians. Everybody's in there to feed whatever friends and family they need immediately, and then they get out. But from what I'm looking at, these people are going to die in the House of Parliament before they leave. Because I've been seeing all these faces from when I was a kid. I live in South Central Clarendon, and you guys know who rules South Central Clarendon with the iron fist, Mike Henry. I've seen this man from when I was a child. From I've been going to Rotary meetings with my mom and my aunties. I've seen this man from when I was a kid. And I can tell you from living in my constituency, the roads are only fixed when it's election time, and I live on the road heading to Denby Showground. I live on Jackson Street. That is the road that leads you to the Denby Showground. I live by the hospital. At one point, there was potholes in the road to the hospital on them and Jackson Street that were so big that you could literally put a truck in there and it still wouldn't fill. And that was his constituency, going to 2 of the most prominent schools in Clarendon, Denby High School and Glenmuir. And nothing was done about it until from election. Or when it was back to school time, they would spend a little money to chop down the bushes when it was September morning. But by January, you'd be back in the streets. They installed back in 2013, 2012, if my mind said right. They put sidewalks on Jackson Street for the school children to not walk in the road, but walk on the sidewalks. But come January morning, you have to walk back in the road because the trees are overgrown, and I don't see what these ministers are doing unless it's come election time.
You know, we I sit here, and I must say good afternoon or good night to our friends who are watching us on YouTube. Please like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm asking everyone who is listening, who is watching us on YouTube, to please like, share, and subscribe. And to our listeners on Jam Vibes Radio, Zeno FM, welcome. I must say good evening to our good friends from space and Twitter who is watching us. My good friend Rochelle, K, and Triple D. Not to mention a lot more who are watching us right now. Please like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. I sit here and a lot of people say, Jeffrey, you're too passionate, but I can see the passion in Mr. Minto. He has reached a point where we can't give up on Mr. Minto.
No, I would never do that. I wear my Jamaican colors, I wear my Jamaican symbols, and I am a proud Jamaican. My goal is still to retire from this miserable country called the United States of America and move back to my country. I am here to can and get out. Because Jamaica is still the paradise that it is to me and always will be. At one point, I wanted to have my kids and raise them in Jamaica, allowing my mother to raise my kids so they can enjoy the sweetness that I enjoyed as a child growing up. The exposure of seeing different forms of life in Jamaica. As a young man, I drove trucks in the island when I left high school. And I know 14 parishes very well, inside out. Jamaica is beautiful, from Portland right back to Westmoreland. I enjoy my country. I have lived a life in my country that a lot of adults have yet to ever see. I love my country. I'm proud to be a Jamaican. When I speak and I go anywhere, the first thing I make sure everybody knows that I am Jamaican. No matter what the crime rate is, I will always be proud to speak of Jamaica. But it is sickening to see that as a country that has so much rivers, streams, and so many forms of ways that we can reap benefit from our land, we are not. We are allowing outside people to come into our country and reap benefits from our lands that should be ours. No one is a proper infrastructure, whether from the days of what's his name, that Mr. Piggy Face man, Mr. Fat Chest man there, what's his name? Philip, whatever his name for the agriculture minister, him to
I mean Roger Clark, the late Roger Clark?
Late Roger Clark to Christopher Tuffiam when he came and said, eat what you grow, grow what you eat, with the cassava initiative that just went down the drain.
You know, Michael Manley was the one who came up with the eat what you grow, grow what you eat. Isn't that true, Mr. Nelson, Sir Rattigan? And you know, we haven't done that. You know, we're gonna switch gear from security. Mr. Nelson, you have something more to say about security, sir?
Yeah, well, you can't talk about security without addressing corruption.
Okay, go ahead.
Right? And the cost of corruption, I think, has been echoed very well by Dr. Trevor Monroe and by Ms. Janet Calder from JAM. Dr. Monroe being from NI. And the fact that we cover up the names of our politicians who are responsible for corruption by not naming the fact that they're being investigated for corrupt practices has to cease. And I believe they're trying to do something about that law that protects them. The law should protect people innocent, not people who misappropriate money or lose 8 million barrels of oil while they're working at the Ministry of Science, Energy, and Technology. You know, they should not have to, you know, be able to sue anybody who accuse them of doing these things, because we've heard about certain funds being secured for the use of certain ministers in St. Lucia. The idea that St. Lucia keeps popping up every time you turn around, because there are companies that were formed there by individuals that we know quite well, and that we have sat in St. Lucia and spoken with them. And these companies are sources of corruption. Bank accounts that are there as funds that's accessible by certain ministers. So all of these corrupt practices that you have, we need to challenge our journalists like yourself, like 18 Degrees North, like journalists in the Observer and the Gleaner. They have to come up with more investigative journalism and name names.
Mr. Nelson, what you feel, I want to allow you to finish, what you feel to understand, you know, majority of these journalists are in the back pockets of politicians, you know. So they can't do anything, they can't say anything. There's a well-known radio station in this country who don't come out with certain things, you know. If it affects the People's National Party, they do. But if it affects the Labour Party, they don't. Continue.
Yeah, I mean, we can't pick and choose the lesser of two evils all the time. To make people change, to force them to change, you have to talk about their actions and their activities. And you need to come out and say it like it is. Call them out. We get a lot of money from the United States, not just the 60 million from the US government. There are trillions of dollars that's unaccounted for in donor funds.
And I think, I've been saying this to Mr. Rattigan also, and I know Mr. Rattigan must be tired. I think he look tired like he want to come off now, you know. But he not come off yet. I don't finish with you yet. They could sit in the rocking chair to rock some more.
No, I'm at your service, sir.
We need to have an investigation in donor funds into Jamaica. Mainly, where is the money? How is the money being spent within the Ministry of National Security and Justice? Where is the money? Because I'm pretty much sure donor funds go to the Ministry of Health too, you know? And we have a Minister of Education who I don't believe the good little lady should be in that ministry. Believe you me. She's a very nice lady, but I don't think she should be in that ministry. So Mr. Nelson and Mr. Rattigan, we need, you all in the diaspora, we need to find out, can the members of the diaspora petition the American Congress and the White House to lead an investigation in the money that is being given to the Jamaican government when it comes on to national security? It can't be that money is given to the national security, yet money from the Jamaican coffers also is budgeted to the national security, and our police officers don't have any bulletproof vests. Look at it. Our teachers are leaving the education institution. And I had the Minister of Education on my program a couple of days ago. And I said to her, Minister, have you sit down with the Ministry of Finance to say to them, listen to me, we are having a problem, our teachers are leaving. Can you do something about the salary? Mr. Rattigan, you are on the program. The woman said to me, she's not gonna come on the program to have a debate about salaries. Huh? Because for them pocket full of money, And the poor pauperizing teachers don't have no money. I am on a program, I'm on a transport program where when I speak, the vex with me. The taxi drivers in St. Thomas, the road condition up there is atrocious. They're fixing the road from Wapikill Philip. And they're saying to me that we mustn't call for demonstration. Well, me not do it right now. If any member of the taxi association in Morant Bay listening or watching me, wanna block the road come Monday morning. Block left, right, and center. Enough is enough. We're going back to what we're talking about. The corruption in our country, Mr. Nelson and Mr. Rattigan, it gone out of work, It gone, it can't come back. So I'm saying to you all who is in the diaspora, let us petition the American Congress to find a way. Let they say to the Jamaican government, where is the money that we give to you all? How it is being spent? Why the police forces that don't have certain things? One police officer going home with only $70,000 a month to fight crime in Jamaica? Meanwhile, the Commissioner of Police is paid much $1 million a year? Hey, Mr. Rattigan?
Well, yeah, there's inequity there as far as salary is concerned, because the police commissioner, his life is not on the line. He sits in that ivory tower up at the police high command while the people, they're on the street running around trying to protect and serve and reassure. So it's a depressing scene. Going back to the Minister of Education, my only regret is that he didn't allow me to ask her some questions, but I do understand that that wasn't the format she agreed to, and so I respect it. But in her absence, I have to ask her the question, why is it only 8 schools? She said, and I have my notes here, I think she said only 8 schools that they have furniture. 8 schools have been outfitted with furniture to start the school year. 8 out of how many schools? And The main question I wanted to ask her was that, considering the allegations made against the former Minister Royal Reid and others, including the permanent secretary, of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars being misappropriated from the ministry, what has she done to ensure that that doesn't happen again? Who is she working with? I wasn't able to ask her that question, but I'll ask her in absentia because it's an important question, and I don't think they have done anything to stop this misappropriation of funds from happening. Somebody mentioned Dr. Tufton, and most people in Jamaica don't know that Dr. Tufton is not a medical doctor. I mean, they're surprised when I tell them that. He has a PhD in marketing. And to show you how ludicrous the selection process is, and I don't know if it has to do with loyalty or some other aspect, but the Prime Minister took a trained and experienced medical doctor, Dr. Chan, and instead of putting him in charge of the Ministry of Health that so desperately needs leadership in the medical field, he put him in charge of national security, where he has no experience whatsoever. He's a complete dunce on that topic. And then he put the marketing PhD in charge of the Ministry of Health. Now, here's what that Minister of Health did. He sat there while the nurses left the island in droves because poor salary, inadequate working conditions, no resources, no support. And they left for greener pastures to the US and Canada, I believe. Most of them came to the US. What did he do? He didn't stop them from leaving. He didn't talk about, hey, let's talk about your salaries. Let's talk about working conditions. He didn't. They left. Then he got together a delegation and spent taxpayers' money to come to Florida and Georgia to do what? To recruit the same people who left to come back to Jamaica to work for 6 months at a time. That guy, he needs a checkup from the neck up. He's crazy. How can you allow people to leave and they have a better standard of living, more money, and then you come and you telling them now that you're trying to recruit them to go back home? The question that should be asked is, somebody should say, Mr. Minister, you spent all of this money, taxpayers' money, with a delegation to go to Florida and Georgia. How many people have you recruited to come back to Jamaica and work? We want to know, we want to get the best bang for a dollar. And since you didn't see it fit to engage them while they were on the island, you saw it fit to engage them after they left. And how many people went back? And by the way, while you were at it, did you take any personal time? Did you go visit family members in Florida or Georgia or wherever? Those are the questions that Jamaicans should be asking. But again, we've become complacent and we've become, it's like business as usual. In fact, a friend of mine last night said to me when we came up with the Michael Lee Chen saga, he said, nothing can do, just attack because them man they run the country. There's nothing. I mean, some teams say, listen, if I hear about David and Goliath, you never hear that story there. You have to keep fighting, brethren. You have to keep fighting. You cannot give up. That's what they're banking on, that you're going to give up. But this is a new generation. When you have people like Mr. Minto, who is very, very passionate like us and who loves this country and wants to see the best and is willing to take a stand. A change is coming.
Yes.
A change is coming. I'm telling you, a change is coming.
Indeed. I see. Let me read something here from Ambassador Curtis Ward. Ambassador Curtis Ward said that the investment in the X-ray and garment X-ray machine equipment, now my glasses on, were at the level of $60 million in 1990. So in other words, in 1990, it was a $60 million US. And they could have bought the X-ray machine from when? The same 40 million US. But the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade troubled the whole of Africa to become Secretary General of the Commonwealth, who go to war to this X-ray machine. The same $40 million could go towards paying our teachers. The same 200 or 300 million they spent for Grand Gala for Jamaica independence could go towards our teachers, to go towards buying the X-ray machine to find out how much gun come into this country. But because there's no checks and balances, because there is no accountability, any government going to power, they do what they feel like to do. They spend and they spend and they spend and they spend. When the money done, they say the country gone bankrupt. Like Sri Lanka. The president of Sri Lanka, him gone back down there, you know. After him run the country, how much bankruptcy him gone back to Sri Lanka. Try that at Jamaican Security Guard do not serve down there.
Jeffrey, picture this, right?
Go ahead,
Picture
sir.
this. Picture this. We constantly hear the phrase being echoed, children are our future. But are they really? Look at how the former minister and the permanent secretary allegedly gutted the Ministry of Resources, financial resources, right? And now teachers are leaving at an unprecedented rate.
And you don't hear the prime minister. Hold on, Mr. Rattigan. You don't hear the prime minister of this country come out and says nothing about the teachers leaving Jamaica, you know?
Mm-hmm. Right. And so what happens now is they're recruiting people to teach, people who under normal circumstances don't even qualify to become teachers, because they're saying, oh, and I heard the minister on your program last week when she said, oh, we have people with maths degree and this degree and that degree. What she failed to, I think she knows this, that not everyone with a degree is a teacher. A teacher that requires special skills.
We don't know if she know, Mr. Rattigan. We don't know if she know. We don't know if she know. Don't assume that she know.
Well, after I'm going to assume. I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe I shouldn't. But the one thing I do know is this: we should expect to have and I'm going to be surprised if this doesn't happen, a group at Dunce Bat Picnic when all is said and done, because we don't have the qualified teachers in the classroom to teach our children. We don't. So what's going to happen is that you shouldn't expect brilliance out of it. You will have some brilliant students, but the crop of brilliance that Jamaica is used to having coming out of high schools and primary schools, you can forget that. You can just forget that, because when you tell me that just because somebody have a master's degree, them can come in and teach, right? You don't need to be at the ministerial level to realize that that's not necessarily true. I mean, you have people who have been trained as doctors, but are dentists, but they can't teach the subject, right? They're practitioners, but they can't teach, right? That takes special. That's why they have teachers college. That's why they have that. I know the teachers them run gone, just like the nurses them. I'm waiting for her to say she getting a delegation to come to America and try and recruit the teachers to come back. I'm waiting for that.
No, hello, they are crazy enough to do it. Mr. Minto, then I go to Mr. Nelson. Mr. Minto, your views on the whole idea of our teachers leaving our education institutions, sir. Mr. Minto, AKK Chipper.
As a person who went to school with most of the teachers that are coming out of Teachers College now, because I left high school in 2014. I have friends that just left Teachers College. I had a friend she's around 32. When she left Teachers College and applied for a job, it was lucky enough that she held on to her previous job, because she was unable to get a job in the teaching force. Because at one point there was no jobs, and now that she has gotten into it, she realized there's no money. So now she wants to leave to make sure that she can provide for her family. And it is utterly disgraceful that the teachers have to be running away for their own security, job security for the future, instead of trying to be patriotic. It is sad. It is very sad that teachers have to pack up and leave from teaching their own next generation and run away. And people, a minister the other day got up and said that he need them to be patriots and hang in there. Hang in there for what? What are they hanging on to? Empty promises? Back pays? No ability to secure their NHT funds, to secure them a home for them and their family? What are they holding on to? Not having any good health insurance, dental insurance? What is there to hold on to? I cannot wrong these people for looking better for themselves, because seeking better for myself allowed me to migrate outside of the country. I didn't want to leave, but I realized that there was not much being done for me to be secured in Jamaica the way I needed to. We have one of the best agricultural universities in the world, case, out there in Portland. And I went to Ebony Park Art Academy and I did 2 years. Did agriculture and I did agriculture food science. That's making jams, jellies, and preserves. And I went to school with some brilliant students, and they cannot get any employment inside our country. So what they have to do, they have to migrate on any little farm work program they can find to go outside of the country. And even though it might not be the best conditions, they are at least getting paid properly for what they're laboring. In Jamaica, there's no providing for agricultural workers. There's none. The resources in Jamaica are a lot, but I don't believe that the government is developing the infrastructure to impact the agricultural sector in the proper way that it needs to allow goods to reach from farmers to the markets and to the supply chain, like those mainstream hotels that are here in the island that requires ton loads of food to feed tourists. I believe the government needs to do more for the agricultural sector, because it is the only way to save Jamaica going forward, to raise our GDP. It is the only way, because right now we don't own anything. The bauxite, from when I was a child, that has always been sold out. We mine the bauxite, and I always laugh at this. We mine the bauxite, and we export it, and import in the most expensive part, the aluminum. From when I was a child, I always looked at that. That is rubbish. Why didn't we invest back into making sure that we had the machineries here to make aluminum, so we could have that to export on a greater scale and bring in more revenue to our country? Also looking at the fact that we had a good garments factory, we had free zones, and a lot of kids, when I ask them that, they know that, that hats were made one point in Jamaica, they look at me with shock on their face, like, when? There was free zones in Jamaica, that people would come and employ people to make their products. Where are those things? So what is in this 2030 vision for Jamaica? What is it? What are they trying to do to impact us as a nation, to leave substantial resources for the next generation? What is it?
Thank you, Mr. Minto. I must address something that I see on my YouTube channel chat area. Mr. Noel Williams, some of you chat too much and very disrespectful. Some other place you are, you all would show some respect.
As you're making your way to your seat, we kindly ask you to step in your row.
Oh, Jesus. Mr. Richards, can you mute your mic for me, please, sir? Yes. In what way are we being disrespectful, Mr. Williams?
That means if they're closed, that means they are.
Can you mute your mic, please, sir? Thank you.
I saw the comment and I wonder, where are we being disrespectful? Who are we disrespecting when the government of Jamaica disrespects every day by taking us for a bunch of idiots?
Let me make something clear again. I mean, you're entitled to your opinion, Mr. Williams. All of us are entitled to our opinions. And, we say anything we feel like to say on this program. We're not disrespecting anybody. And if you're a member of the Labour Party, all kudos to you. If you're a member of the People's National Party, all kudos to you too. But what we're saying is what is going on in our country, and we can't sit down idle by and just accept what is going on in our country. We cannot. Mr. Nelson, we speak about so many things. Mr. Pinter came up with something a while ago about agriculture. What can you say to them? Because as far as I'm concerned, they are selling out every single agricultural land in our country, to all the big friends of the Vumvava and the Vumvavi, the people of the hierarchy of Upper Cherry Garden, Upper St. Andrew, and the upperlands of Portland. I call no name on the Portland. Because we don't like to know the land that was given to them to plant food. How you not trying in the housing development? If we have food, if we have houses and no food, we're dead. When last have they built a water reservoir for Jamaica? China have rivers drying up left, right, and center, Mr. Nelson, your views on that, sir?
Well, the amazing thing is that Jamaica is exporting water. I believe China, Spain, and other countries are buying Jamaica's water. And they have rerouted, I guess, rivers and streams to support those factories that bottle the water or package the water to get it out of the island. And you look at Yallas and some other rivers, all the riverbeds are dry.
So in other words, hold on, Mr. Nelson, you're saying to me that all the Yallas River, they rewrote the Yallas River to supply the factories, though?
Apparently, that's one of the rivers that got rerouted. And you've got...
I beg your pardon?
Up in the mountains, you have different water catchment areas and the bottling of water that's occurring up like in Augustown and these other places. And then you have in some of the ports, you have the water that's goes directly out onto ships. Now, if we're going to go into the water sale business, you would think that the two reservoirs that we have been dependent on for decades, that they would have done something to increase those reservoirs to 4 and to actually have catchment areas in some of these country towns where the people have to walk long distances to carry water on their heads from the catchment area back home. By the time they get home, a third of the water dissipate or spill. So we have a water problem. We have a food security problem that's coming up. So if you're looking at, like, I know Trinidad and Guyana just made a deal to work together to increase rice and other food productions in Guyana. Because Guyana, of course, as you know, is over 80-something thousand square miles. Jamaica can fit into Guyana well over 20 times. And the issue right now is we have got to come up with methodologies that produce the growing of food to feed not just our population, but perhaps to help some of the smaller islands that might run into hard times in the near future. This should be a CARICOM effort, not just isolated with Trinidad and Guyana by themselves, but Jamaica being one of the leaders in the Caribbean should have been leading this charge. Instead, we find that we're trying to build houses. Look, we got so many apartment complexes going up within Kingston. If they're going to renovate and build new living facilities, let them renovate some of the rundown areas we have where nothing else is happening. And with that renovation should come increased security and other services, medical, as well as school. So we yet to directly address what ails us and to fix the problem that needs to be fixed.
Yeah. Mr. Rattigan,
Yes,
there's
sir.
a message in the chat room to you from Ambassador Ward.
Sir.
The same paper you're there trying to fix up there. He wants you to speak on it.
Well, I'm still reviewing it. It's 100 and something pages, and it's quite revealing. It talks about a whole range of national security issues. It talks about the formation of the Office of the National Security Advisor to the Prime Minister, and that person's role and responsibility. It's also interesting that since General Anderson vacated that position has not been filled, which begs the question, why did he fix all the national security issues? Is that why we don't have a replacement for him? Or better yet, why did we have one? Why did we create the position in the first place? He was supposed to be the czar for intelligence, and that's a continuing position. But he's gone. I just saw something in the chat where a gentleman made a remark saying that we should refrain from speaking and we're disrespectful. I wasn't in front of the camera when I guess you guys were discussing it, but if it's not a joke, then let's just assume for the moment that it's a serious comment. When I see these comments, I just disregard them, and in the few instances that I've addressed them, I've simply asked the person, tell us that the things we're saying are incorrect, or point out to us where we're incorrect, because everybody makes mistakes, right? No one's perfect. And so if we have made a mistake in the way we have presented the facts, then tell us where we've made a mistake so that we can correct ourselves. We can do a course correction. But the idea that you're going to say that we chat too much and we're disrespectful, that's not enough. We need more than that. If we're going to have a discourse as to how Jamaica should move forward, then that criticism is not worth. It's not worth any.
Sometimes, Mr. Rattigan, we have people who watch my program and other programs, and because they are die-hearted, they can't move from the level of a die-hearted labor writer or a die-hearted comrade to say, okay, I'm a die-hearted Jamaican. It's about their party and whoever lead their party, or nowhere at all. So when you have people like those chatting rubbish, let me address him now. You ignore them because he's chatting utter rubbish.
But sometimes we don't. But what we don't want to do is we don't want to give up on our brethren and our sistren. So what I would do with something like this, I invite the person to say, please, that's your opinion. Now give me facts. Tell me where I've gone wrong. Tell me something I've said that's incorrect, so that I can change my course. I can change my beliefs. And I'll also apologize to you. But what you find in most instances is that they cannot point to a single fact that's misrepresented. And so what they're arguing off of a deep-seated emotion. That's what they're arguing after. Whether it's because of political or because of territorial or some other reason, they're arguing that. And so what I do is I first give them the chance to explain where I've gone wrong. And then once they can't explain it, then I ignore it. But I don't discard them. Initially I said, please tell me what I've done wrong so that I can change and then we can have a discourse. You can tell me that, hey, you know what? I disagree with you because what you said is incorrect, or that there's no policy on, and then we can talk about that.
Right.
But when you say, hey, you don't chat too much on the disrespectful, then tell me what I need to do, because talk about being disrespectful. There's no greater disrespect than stealing from the children of Jamaica, or being an incompetent in the office of the Minister of National Security and watch your Jamaican citizens die.
Brutally murdered.
Yeah, there's no greater disrespect than that, than to be put in a position where you're way in over your head and you talk nonsense. To me, that's a greater disrespect than what we're doing in calling them out. So this person who wrote this thing, I hope you're still listening, and please write back in the chat room and tell us where we've gone wrong. Please tell us so that we can have a discourse.
Wherever you're watching from around the world in the Eastern Caribbean, you're watching Make We Talk, a special edition, speaking to members of the diaspora. Speaking to my good friend, Mr. Minto, a.k.a. Chipper, from Twitter, the space. I see where one of his friends is saying, big up my friend Chipper. Mr. Herbert Nelson Jr., chairman of the Crime Regional Committee of the Caribbean.
One minute. One second.
Go ahead.
Let me just jump in. I just saw Ambassador Curtis Ward's comment. You mentioned it to me, but I'm actually reading it now.
Right.
He said the document was probably prepared by a white consultant. And this is a constant problem. Constant problem. We've seen reports done by IDB. We've seen reports done by OAS. And then we see this report, and we've seen many reports. And the ambassador is absolutely correct. Most, if not all of these reports, they're written by people who don't have a sense of the culture. They don't have a sense of our history. Yeah. They don't have a sense of the problem that's going on. And so the Jamaican government, they go out and they hire these people instead of hiring people like us. They don't want us. And there's a very good reason why they don't want us. They don't want us because we're gonna see what's in the closet, and we already know what's in the closet. And when they start pointing us in a certain direction, we're gonna say, no, we're gonna go in this direction. And so when these guys come in, they pay these consultants tons of money, and then they draft these things. And guess what? These things are not implemented. I saw a report done by OAS, and it was for the JCF about how they can improve, efficiency and effectiveness. And if you look at that report and you go back to the JCF and say, okay, how many of these things have you done? Very few. Very few. And so very few, and that's why we say they're ineffective and inefficient. But then when you ask the police, they'll say, yeah, you may say that, but we're not the source of the problem. The source of the problem is the politicians, because we don't get the funding, we don't get the resources, we don't get the support that we need. So we have used basket for carry water. So they said, don't blame us, go blame the source. And to a large degree, they are correct.
Mr. Minto, then I'm gonna switch to Mr. Nelson. Mr. Minto.
Yes.
You listen to everything that these two esteemed gentlemen is talking about.
Yes.
You have two daughters, two lovely daughters.
Yes,
is it two or three?
Three of them.
Three lovely daughters. What would you say to them coming up about your beloved country?
I would ask of them to be patient with us.
Be
patient with us. Because I believe in the younger generation that is coming up that we will make changes in a positive way. What I would ask of the greater diaspora of Jamaica is to not sit and play the blame game. Let's take accountability, not just for our actions, but for the actions of our forefathers, our mothers, our grandmothers, our grandparents. And we need to educate them on what they're saying to us to be mostly nonsense. This narrative culture that we have, that because my father was a laborite, I'm supposed to be a laborite, needs to be cut off. We're supposed to be voting for change, not voting because my father told me that laborite has been ruling, and we're supposed to look and analyze. That's why we got a mind of our own. To think, process information, look at it and ask questions. When you cannot get the answer from whoever you're asking, move along to the higher heads up above. Move the person that is next to them, the person who is in charge of them. Instead of sitting down and blaming them that they are not doing what they need to do. We as a people are not holding who we need to hold accountable, and that is our MPs and our representative of our communities and our nation. As a people, we are supposed to ask questions. That is why we are here as a people. And that is why we put these people in the house to represent us. So we can ask them, how are they representing us on an international scale? How are they representing us on a local scale? We as a people have to ask these things of our politicians instead of sitting back and playing the blame game. If we continue to do that, nothing will be ever changed, because the blame game has been playing since 1990 odd. From whatever time we gained some independence, the blame game has been played. Everybody has always tried to throw it off on the next person. I believe that as a people, if we unite, we can do a lot more. We all remember the gas riot. Some of us wasn't born, but we remember hearing about that gas riot. That gas riot was caused because of unity of the people. When we unite, we're stronger. We are stronger in numbers. And I ask of my people to unite and fight for what we know is right, because we all know deep down inside what we need out of our government.
You know, I can hear the passion in Mr. Minto's voice, the passion for change in our country, the passion that many of us have. Herb Nelson Jr., Wilfred Rattigan, former Jamaican Ambassador Curtis Ward, our good friend Rupert Francis, Dr. Rupert Francis, and many other Jamaicans. The passion that we have for our beloved country. Even Mr. Richards that is on Zoom here, I think he looks like he's on a flight heading back to the land of wood and water. You know? I mean, we sit here and we talk about what's going on in our country. And I would say to my fellow Jamaicans who are on my YouTube channel and Facebook, mainly on the YouTube channel, to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Subscribe, like, share, and subscribe. Because we're not here bashing the Labour Party. We're not here bashing the People's National Party. What we are saying, you come around every 5 years and you ask for our vote. Then do something. Uplift our country. Secure our country. Because if you have a government who can't secure its people, then something is fundamentally wrong with the government of your country. If you can't secure your people, you can't provide proper health care, you can't provide proper education system. And there's two more that I can't remember right now. Maybe Mr. Rattigan can help me. Then something is wrong with us.
And Mr. Jeff, I don't mean to cut you off.
Go ahead, sir.
I want Jamaicans to understand that out of the Caribbean, we are beloved by every country around the world. What is that for? Because of our culture. And we have taken this new role of trying to adapt everyone's culture and move away from ours. And I feel so ashamed when I see people trying to be like other countries, when every other country emulates to be like us. And remember, we are just a small little dot in the island, in the Caribbean. We're just a small little dot on the map. You can fall in most states 15 times. In the United States, other countries, you can fall into them 20 times. And we impact every movie, every documentary we talk about Jamaica. When you're watching a series, people say, oh, I'm going on a vacation. Where do they list Jamaica as the #1 tourist attraction? And we do not respect our country. And that is why we don't fight for our country like the way we need to fight for it. Because as a people, we just look at it as, it's just another day. It's just another day in the island of Jamaica. When everybody wants to be a part of our culture, everybody loves our way of life, our food. Everybody loves how we talk. When you go anywhere and people see you as a Jamaican, they're quick to employ because what they know, you're hard working, because other Jamaicans has already set the pace for you. So I believe as a people, we need to respect our country and fight for it. Fight with your might, fight with your last breath. If the forefathers before us never fight, we would have never been free. But I think we have gotten too laid back as a people and relaxed in accepting rubbish.
I'm lost for word.
Hear, hear.
Mr. Rattigan, go ahead, sir.
No, I was just cheering on Mr. Minto because, you know, I really love his passion and I wish more people would express that kind of passion for Jamaica. Not only people living in the diaspora, but people living in Jamaica. I'm sure that they feel the same way that he does, but I just need an expression from them, you know, more than just the support, because we, Mr. Tavares, you know, we get the support from people, but it's a surreptitious type of support where they call us and say, well, we support what you're doing, but we need an outpouring. We need something similar to what we're doing right now with Mr. Minto, where people come out and show them face and say, yes, enough is enough.
You know, Mr. Rattigan, Mr. Nelson, and Mr. Minto, maybe Mr. Minto can organize where we have more people who we chat to on Space and Twitter to come on to a program like this. Hey, Mr. Minto, maybe you can organize something like that. Maybe you can encourage them to come on. Let us come on. Let us go ahead.
Asking me that I need to go on. I need to make a podcast out of this, and I'm going to push for it. Even if it's to join hands with you and make more time.
Yes, you can. I mean, you can come on.
show and show my passion, because I believe that as a young man from Jamaica, I can also impact other young people's life with information that I am sitting on, because I was raised by persons like Mr. Gary right here, Richard, who are older than me. And they are very passionate about like our country. And they have taught me in a very way. My friend group, it ranges from the ages of 30 and up, right back to 60 and 70-year-old. I have as friends that I can sit and I can talk to. And they have taught me on that. So when a lot of people hear me, they look at me and they say, wow, for a young man, you articulate yourself very well. But that is because of my exposure to things. And I try my best to sit and learn from whatever I can. So I believe that with that experience, I can share more with the younger generation and empower them to do more and say more. And that is why I took this initiative to ask of Mr. Jeffrey to get a group of panelists and let's sit and have a discussion.
Yes. And I'm saying to you tonight, and to all who is on my YouTube channel, who is listening to us, who we chat to in space and Twitter, let us come together one evening. My program is open to all of you. I know a lot of people may say Jeffrey chat too much politics, but so be it. My program is open to all of you, young, old. Come on. You all see me on Twitter. Inbox me and say, Jeffrey, can we have a discussion? We're live on YouTube. We're gonna be live on I'm getting a different streamline to go live on Twitter, TikTok, and everything like that. But come on. The passion that I see Chipper with, I never know Chipper has so much passion about Jamaica. And talking to him now, it makes me say, yes, there is hope for Jamaica. There's hope for the land of wood and water. There's hope from Negril Point to Moran Point. And we can do this. The change that we seek, we can do it. Because we need a government of the people, for the people, and by the people. Not a government of the favorite few. Mr. Nelson, go ahead, sir.
Yes, good salient points made by Chipper. And one of the things I want to emphasize here in reading today's report on what the president of the Police Federation had to say at the slain officer's funeral recently.
Mm-hmm.
He says, for the very first time, I'm going to be frank with the country, because the truth must come to light and the lies come to die. For years, the JCF in its existence has been grappling with inefficiencies, lack of resources to police the citizens of this country, James declared. And those who the electorate, you the citizens of this country elect, have failed to hold those incompetents accountable. I state without any fear of contradiction, enough is enough, thundered James. So when you hear the Federation, top man in the Federation, saying this, you can imagine he's at his wit's end, because he's losing officers left and right. Just like the president of the Teachers Association would lament losing experienced teachers left and right. Now, when Jamaica was in trouble over the COVID period, an interesting thing happened, Jeffrey.
Yes.
The remittances went from 2.3 billion to 3.3 billion. An extra billion, not Jamaican dollars, but US dollars went in the kitty to get Jamaica through the rough period between 20 to 21.
Mm-hmm.
And I would ask people to consider, if we're able, I know the ministers have said no direct contributions to police stations or anything like this, but there's got to be a way that we could contribute an extra billion to fix what ails us with the police and the police equipment, as well as with the teachers and teachers' salary. This is where, just like the folks, the Jews and Israel, where they have, they step in and they make contributions directly to Israel. We need to consider that for Jamaica so that we can improve the quality of life for teachers and for police officers.
But before we do that, Mr. Nelson, remember what you're going to say? You see, before we do that, we have to have accountability, you know, because we can't give the government the money. We cannot trust the government of Jamaica, none of them.
I wouldn't suggest giving the money to the government of Jamaica. We would have to come up with a non-profit that does a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, and other threats that the teachers and the police suffer. And we would have to come up with a non-profit once that assessment is made, who can then administer the funds directly to impact these areas. And you don't have to hand funds to them. You can purchase stuff that they need, and that can be done locally. I don't see the minister jumping up and stopping that and blocking that in any way. But we can make that extra effort in the diaspora if we want to stop the talking and take more action. That needs to happen, in my estimation. And they know we're capable of doing it. So if we did it and we are the right people who are fully accountable and things can be tracked like they should, we should be able to effect some action like that to directly help and assist our officers, to include the military, because they're playing a vital role as well.
Yes.
But we got to change the nature of the game. We're going to stop the losing and we start winning and motivate these guys to want to do better. Both male, female, everybody, all hands on deck.
Mm-hmm. You know, we have been at it from 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock Jamaica time, 7 o'clock US time. And I sit here and I listen and I'm here and I'm saying to myself, the country that we love so dearly, can we ask our politicians in Jamaica, unlike the president of Ukraine, who decided that he's not leaving his country during the time of war? President Zelensky is still in Ukraine fighting the Russians. Can any one of us on this platform put our hands, not our head, our hands on a block and swear to ourselves that any politician in Jamaica would stay in Jamaica to fight any uprising in Jamaica? Chipper?
At for a moment's doubt, I doubt they would ever even stand with Jamaica if it really gets out of hand. If the violence was to turn upon them, as it is turned upon to the people, they would be the first ones to hop on a private jet instead of a commercial flight to get out of that country.
Mr. Rattigan?
I agree with Mr. Minto. You know, the corruption runs so deep that they're not going to stick around to see the aftermath of what's going to happen. And when I say the corruption is so deep, I'm using that phrase to transition to the fact that if you should do a study as to donor funds, you won't even have to worry about. Well, here's where you would trap them. If you do a study on donor funds, there's no place for them to run. They'll be like a cage animal. They can't come to America. They can't go anywhere, because if the FBI gets involved in, and by the way, let me just throw this out, that if we can prove that there's corruption, or DPP can prove that there's corruption and that the money touched the financial system of the US will investigate and repatriate the funds and even assist in the arrest of that person. And if you can show that donor funds were involved, then that person would be subject to American law as well. So once you start an investigation of this, you're gonna see they'll be confused. I mean, we talk about if the violence should be turned against them, that they would run, they'd get on a private jet. But if you start talking about doing a donor funds investigation, there's no place for them to go.
And I think,
place.
and I think, Mr. Rattigan, I am asking you, as a former FBI agent, I'm pretty much sure you have power same way and as attorney at law. No, them afraid of you down there, but they continue afraid.
Well, you know, Jeffrey, just to cut you out quickly. One of the reasons why they're afraid is because they've been told, I didn't tell them, but they've been told that I have the files. And so, but I can tell them, I will neither deny nor confirm that I have any files. But if I do have the files, I don't have the files alone, right?
There you go.
But they're saying that I have files. It's been said that they're afraid because I have files. Well, actually, to be honest, I have no files. I have no files. Wink, wink. So that's where we are.
you know, Sir Rattigan, I thought when you said, you know, you neither have nor you neither deny that, I was like, okay, let's just stay that way. But you end up putting it out now for them to say, okay, ciao, Ratty, you know. But I like when I say that, you know, because they can't say you have it yes or no. But, you know, but on a very serious note, though, an investigation should be launched.
Yes.
Mr. Nelson, I am asking you, sir, through your organization, we need to petition the American Congress to do an investigation in donor funds towards the government of Jamaica from the 1980s come straight up. All who dead, dig them up and back and prison them. Because too much is going on. Too much is going on, Mr. Nelson. And we need to do something like that. We need to do some serious investigation. We can't leave a Jamaica for our children in a corrupt, crime-infected country. They're talking about 2030 vision to live and work where? Huh? Where if you call 911, it's telling you to hang up and call this number? What's that 20 vision are they talking about? And yet they're talking about we want to take away, we want to leave the Queen and go on Republic. Go Republic where? In what country? And who, if we go Republic, who's gonna formulate the new constitution? The same half-dead crooks that we have down there? Huh? The time has come that Jamaicans must stand up. The time has come where we said, look here, now make you people talking politics, oh, they're chatting about, no, the time has come, my fellow Jamaicans. We need to speak out. We can't continue like this as a nation and as a people. We cannot. The corruption stinks to the highest heaven. And the PNP getting is going to be the same thing. They led the country for over 18 years and a whole barrage of corruption happened. And we had a world-class finance minister who said run with it. Him locked down Central Bank. And the owner of Central Bank swear blind you will never go back to Jamaica. Because what? The corruption stinks. And I say to you all who are watching us on YouTube and listen to us on Jam Vibes Radio, the time has come for us to call for accountability. Let us come together in some way or form Approach the Jamaican diaspora in the United States. Call for an investigation in donor funds. Call for an investigation in the $2 or $3 billion that is given to the JCF every year. Where's the money going? The JCF don't have anything to fight crime. The time has come, my fellow Jamaicans. Enough is enough. It is now 9:17 in the United States, 8:17 in Kingston, Jamaica. We're gonna say so long from here. But before we go, the final word from my good friend, Chipper, Mr. Minto. Your final word to your fellow Jamaicans in the diaspora and in Jamaica.
My final word to the people of Jamaica is to believe in yourself. We are the people of Jamaica, and we are the power of Jamaica. We are the powerhouse, and we have to want change to get change. We have to be hungry for it. We are the only way that Jamaica will grow, and only way Jamaica will get better. By asking and making sure we petition and continuously to petition change. We have to come together as a people and unite, because guess what? In numbers, we stand strong. And remember, we are alive on Make We Talk with Jeffrey Tavares. Please like, share, and subscribe. Check us out. Follow us on any social media platform. Leave a like or ask us for information in the comment section. As a young man, I'm willing to educate and inform my people on ways they can grow themselves. You can always catch me on any social media platform you need. So you can leave a question down in the comment section for me, and I'll reach back out to you and I'll give you the information that you want, okay? Just join us at any time. Speak up and speak loud and proud for your country.
Mr. Herbert Nelson Jr.
Yes, sir. Again, thanks to you and your listeners for allowing this forum. I'm just bewildered that with all the talking we've been doing since 2016, when we first came to Jamaica, I spoke directly to the government. It was around 2018 when people started telling us, stop talking to the government and speak to the community. Well, we're speaking to the community now. And we have not forgotten the government, because the government doesn't appear to be speaking to their own communities. And the communities, they have plans, they have projects that should be funded before all of these exotic payments for celebrating emancipendence, for cleaning up the streets, which never ever works, but there's millions of dollars, if not billions, set aside for that. For all the projects that they've started and that are incomplete, we need to start supporting more community-based projects. Give the people the opportunity to make their own suggestions, to clean up their own communities, and in essence, clean up their own governments. We started that process in Waterhouse, and we have kids in Waterhouse working on various projects. Not just Waterhouse, but Augustown and other places that ICS are currently promoting projects. And the kids are our future, and they're seeing what the future looks like. If we're truly talking about 2030, then we need to get rid of some of these old men who are bankrupt of ideas, run out of ideas, and are totally incompetent and inefficient in running government. And we need to get good people in there. And the diaspora needs to get the money in there to support these people. So that is pretty much, my views. And thank you.
Mr. Wilfred Rattigan.
Yes,
Future Talk
Mr.
Show host.
Tavares. Yeah.
Go ahead, man.
Yes, Mr. Tavares. I cannot improve upon anything my fellow panelists said, except to say that Jamaica, we stand on the shoulders of giants, people like Paul Bogle, Nani, Kojo. And so we're at this point now where we need to exhibit those qualities. We've been dormant for too long. We've allowed politicians to take over our lives and direct our future. It's time for us now to start putting our house in order, because we are the ones with the power. We're the ones who voted them in based on their promises. And if they're not delivering on the promises, the hell with party politics, you vote for somebody else. And having said that, I'd just like to say that go ahead, listen to that great musician, Burning Spear, and that song that Mr. Jeffrey Tavares plays. He's been playing it quite frequently now, so it's deeply embedded in my brain. Yes, my country don't sell out. Thank you very much.
This is where I say thank you all. Don't leave us yet until I play this song, my anthem for my program. And I just want to say to my fellow Jamaicans, home and abroad, Jamaica is the land of wood and water. Jamaica needs help. Our country is bleeding. Our country is hurting. Take a stand. Whether you're a PNP or a JLP or no P, take a stand for our children, for our nieces, our nephews, and our cousins who are coming up, our neighbors who are coming up. Take a stand for a better Jamaica, a better way of living. May God bless you. May God bless Jamaica land we love. And this is where I say so long with my favorite song. And I'm asking YouTube and Facebook, I do not own the rights to this song. I do not own the copyrights to this song.
My Highland don't salute. My Highland don't salute. Please don't sell out. My Highland don't sell out. Remember your teachers them now. Remember your nurses them now. Remember your doctors them now. My Highland don't sell out. No, 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 no. My Highland don't sell out. Please don't sell out. Remember your farmers them now. Remember your workers them now. Remember your neighbors them now. My Highland don't sell out. Please don't sell out. My Highland don't sell out. Remember your people them now. Remember the masses. I'm a soldier of His Majesty. So therefore I can see. My Highland don't sell out. Please don't sell out.
And this is where I say so long from here. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for coming on. Until you hear me again, God bless. Come next week. I should say this Tuesday coming. This Tuesday at 11 o'clock Jamaica time, 12 o'clock US time. We'll be coming to you live from Ontario, Canada, where we'll be speaking to the Jamaican farm workers. Are they in modern day slavery? Where the Minister of Labor is saying that there is nothing wrong in where they're working and where they're living. Now we're going to get exclusive with the Jamaican farm workers there in Canada. So join us on Make We Talk Jeffrey Tavares YouTube channel, live from Ontario, Canada, where we're going to go and speak to the Jamaicans over there at the farm work program that is on over there. So please like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Until Tuesday, God bless. Our island don't sell out.